And to get us started, I would like to ask one of our Faith Community Advisory Group members, Daisy Thompson, to offer a prayer. Daisy, are you able to?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's pray. Well, we pray your blessings on Kate, our host, our county executive, Mark Elridge, all attendees in this town hall, our families, all county residents, and we pray for the strength to forgive those who offend us, and we ask for your forgiveness also. We pray for all the people that we serve, for the least of these in the world, especially our children, and we pray also for the vandals who have damaged houses of worship and other property in our county. We are grateful that you have given us this day and for all that we have and for the opportunity to serve others yet another day. We thank you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Ms. Daisy. We really appreciate that. And I'm really excited to have this conversation about renewable energy and the resources that we have, including Access Solar, which is a really exciting program that we have in Montgomery County. And I've seen the county executive a couple times recently, and one thing he'll talk to me about every single time I see him is showing me his solar panel updates on his phone. He has an app that shows how much energy they're getting in that moment. And so he's really excited about solar access, and we're really excited to make this an opportunity for more folks within Montgomery County. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to ask Lindsey Shaw to get us started by talking about her own experience with going solar. She is the chief in the Energy and Climate section of the Department of Environmental Protection. And so we're really glad to have her here today.
Great. Thank you for the introduction, Kate. Appreciate it. So I was asked to speak a little bit about my very own experience getting solar. Of course, I'm bought in already. Work for DEP. I've worked for kind of climate and environmental issues for a while, but the rubber really meets the road when you have to do these things yourself. So you can talk about the solar co-op, you can talk about all these programs, but when you actually do the work yourself, it's really exciting to get to that point. So my husband and I bought a single family home in March of 2019. Couldn't be better timed with the pandemic, I'll tell you. We have really, we're blessed really with these amazing mature old growth trees around our house that were planted when the homes were constructed in 1969. You can see the branch of one of them in the picture here. So that's one of our silver maples. Off screen here, there's two very large pine trees and another silver maple on the other side of the yard here. So we're able to get solar with the trees that were there. As anyone at DEP will tell you, it is absolutely not worth cutting down trees to get solar, but the two can work in harmony. So in 2019, there was the solar co-op. The solar co-op runs every year from the beginning of April till the end of August. So there is a solar co-op going on right now that I'm sure Cindy will tell you about. So if anyone's interested in solar, there's no obligation to do anything when you sign up for the solar co-op. Your obligation is to learn and to figure out if solar is right for you. There's no commitment when you're signing up to learn about the solar co-op. So highly encourage anyone who's even interested in solar to sign up, attend an info session, see if it's right for you. No obligation, which is my favorite part of the solar co-op. So we signed up in 2019. There's a solar investment tax credit that you get. It's a federal tax credit against your property taxes. I wanted to make sure that we got that in 2020, in 2019 before it stepped down. Our installation was completed and we were turned online in late January of 2020. So we were producing power by the end of the very end of January 2020. All in all, our panels are, there's 32 panels that make up 9.92 kilowatts of demand. When you talk about solar panels and how many you have and how big the system is, you talk in kilowatts of demand, or megawatts if you're talking about the county level installations, which are huge. So because we have those 4 mature trees, we also needed critter guard installed around the panels so that squirrels and birds don't get under your panels and disconnect them, because that can happen, but there's a really easy fix. It's called critter guard. It's just netting around the bottom of the panels, keep the bugs and the birds out. Let's see. So when you go through the solar co-op, or if you go to any solar provider, they're going to give you something that looks like this. It's pretty basic. It shows you where the panels are going to exist on your roof. So you'll see in the prior picture, these four, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, these panels over here at the top, so in the back of our house, and then the majority of the panels are on the side of our house, right here. That's where the majority of them are. Unfortunately, you can't see them very well from the street. So the best thing about solar is that your neighbors want to talk about it. They're going to ask you about it. No one asks me about my solar panels, so that's why I'm really excited to talk about them today, because no one could see the darn things. So it's kind of frustrating because I had to go into my neighbor's yard to take this picture so you could see the side of my house where the solar panels are. You could see the trees are shading them, but yet I still get pretty decent demand. All I had was this one box on the side, on the right-hand side, so you could see my Pepco meter here, shut off for the solar panels in case they catch on fire. That can happen if there's a power surge and lightning like we just had, if any of you are in Montgomery County. And basically a breaker box to keep your home safe if anything happens to the solar panels. So when you get that grid, that design, where the panels are going to exist on your house, you're also going to get a design of how much your panels will produce. I was really excited to do this because I actually haven't done this type of analysis to see if my solar panels are producing the way they thought they would. Not as well as I thought they would, but I'll tell you overall, I'm still thrilled that I have them. And I'll tell you why on the next slide. But you can see my production. You've got the pretty general bell curve of winter into summer and then down for the fall and back into winter. So you kind of have that bell curve of production. Obviously, the solar, it's coming in mostly in the summer, but you also notice that I've got those big trees and they're really full in the summer. So our shoulder season are the best seasons for us because there's either no leaves on the trees or few leaves on the trees. And my AC isn't cranked up real high. So I actually get really good kind of year-round leveling off of my utility bill. So you can see I was supposed to get about 9,000 kilowatt hours a year. We're looking at more like 6. So not what I was promised necessarily, but it's possible that the trees created a bit of a challenge there. But still, even with that minor little blip, still really thrilled with the solar panels that I have. This is my last slide. I just want to talk about the impact on utility bills. This is my favorite part. You can see this kind of curve of this is from Pepco. They know that I have solar panels. So you can see that my average monthly savings from solar panels is about $40. If I didn't have those trees, they might be more. If I could host more solar panels, it might be more, but this is the situation that I'm in. Solar panels are very focused to the spot that you're in. But since I've gone solar, I've saved about $1,200. Pretty great. So I can see a real difference if I look at the export of my bill data. Before we got solar, we had some pretty high utility bills. I have 2 kids that don't know how to turn off lights. And so we had one year, my favorite bill that had my jaw on the floor was $230 in the middle of the summer, our first year that we lived here. But after we got the solar, my utility bills leveled out a little bit more. It wasn't, sometimes I had a negative bill, those were really fun, and the negative bills build up. But my summer bills weren't jaw-dropping anymore. That was my favorite part. And then in January 2022, I had an issue with my natural gas-fired furnace. We needed to switch to something that didn't have natural gas because it's giving carbon monoxide off in my home. We switched to a heat pump. So now the heat pump electrifying my heating plus the solar panels means that my natural gas bill is going to come down. My home is healthier for my kids, and the solar panels is going to kind of even out the increase that I might see over my electricity bill over time. So that's my last slide. Not a whole lot of detail in some of these things, but all that to say, really love the solar panels that I have. I would do it again in a heartbeat, and I absolutely can't recommend the solar co-op enough. So yeah, happy to answer any questions if anyone has them, but thanks for letting me share because no one asked me about my solar panels, so I really like being able to share.
Lindsey, I don't think anybody asks the county exec either, which is why he brings them up constantly. Seriously, anybody, if you see him on a call or anywhere, ask him about his solar panels. He'll be so excited to talk about them.
You could also ask about his triple pane windows.
Yes.
I have a question for 2 questions for Lindsey. First
Sure.
off, thank you so much for your presentation. I think you are almost as big of a solar nerd as I am, which is really great to see. Why do you think it's important for you to help the environment? And why do you think it's important for other people to help the environment? So like, what is your reason why you did it? And why do you think other people should or shouldn't do it?
Well, it's important for me because I feel like where I am in county government and what I do with my job, I got to walk the talk. I can't just ask people to get solar panels and not do it myself. I can't ask people to drive an EV without eventually getting one myself. We're trying to cut down on costs. Daycare is expensive. But I'll say I felt like I had to do it because I ask people almost every day to reduce their impact on the climate and what we're facing as a society. And I feel like this is how I can do my part. It's important for me to do that because I feel like that's what I need to do. And why do I think it's important for other people? I feel like there's a lot of benefits to having solar. One is that if you have them appropriately placed on your roof, people will talk to you about them, and it's a great way to get to know your neighbors. It's a great way to actually show people your utility bill like the county executive does, to say, here's what I'm generating right now. That means fewer power plants on the grid. That means more power for entities that need it, like hospitals. I can generate my own. If I added battery backup, I could generate it if the power went off today. Thankfully, it didn't. So I think that it's important for folks to figure out what's the right climate solution for them. Solar might not be it, but I think that it can be for a lot of people. So yeah, I think that it's a good way for people to do their part. Keep what we have going.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lindsey. All right, so we will go on to our next speaker. I encourage you all to ask questions during the presentation, use the chat. Feel free to, wait until a speaker's done. We'll also have time for Q&A at the end. But our next speaker is Joelle Novey, and she's the Director of Interfaith Power and Light for the DMV area. And she has a lot of different ways, especially for the faith community, to be engaged with environmental justice work. So we're excited to have her here today.
Thank you so much. Joelle Novey, she, her, with Interfaith Power and Light. And as you heard, we work with congregations of all faith traditions across the region and many in Montgomery County to support them in saving energy, going green, and responding to climate change. And, so often, folks of all faith traditions, wherever they live, in my experience, are increasingly heartsick about what's happening to our climate. They're mindful that our burning fossil fuels and being in this fossil fuel-based economy is pouring, heat trapping climate pollution into our atmosphere, causing our earth to warm, causing our neighbors to suffer, really causing harm now and in the future here and around the world. And that a lot of the answers to that challenge are, at the end of the day, structural, right? We need to change the laws, and we need to build a movement for national climate policy, and we need to be a player in global climate policy. And so those are all very parts of being something big. But I also think it's so important, and this is why I'm so passionate about helping folks go solar at home this summer. It's also important to imagine what the world we're building will be like. To imagine, and I do try to think about this, like what if we had a world that didn't require fossil fuels? What if we didn't have to burn anything to live our lives? Like, what would that world that we're creating that's not based on combustion be like, feel like, look like? I once heard there's a activist for prison abolition named Mariama Kabas. And she was, she once said, if you can't imagine a world without prisons or without police, just know that every time you solve a conflict between people without involving the state, you are part of that world that we're creating that's beyond policing and beyond prisons. And so I think about that too, with like, what can we create little moments, even though we're so stuck in this fossil fueled world, can we create little spaces where the future that we're creating is real? And to me, waking up in a home, and I live in Eastern Village co-housing in Silver Spring, where we just signed a contract for solar panels that will go right over my condo. So this is going to be the case for me also, that, you know, it is so important to experience what it means to live out that fossil-free world that we're trying to imagine in intimate places like our homes. I think it's such an important reminder that another world is possible, and that it's such a source of hope to be living in greater alignment with who you want to be and who you feel called to, what you feel called to do. I'll also just say we've seen over and over again that these co-op purchasing groups facilitated by Solar United Neighbors with help from the Montgomery County Green Bank are so helpful. If you don't know where to start, if you've thought about going solar and felt a little intimidated by the sales pitches from the vendors, you know, if you are going through this process with neighbors, facilitated by a nonprofit organization that will help you at every step, that will be an advocate for you if you have any questions or problems. We've just find, like, as people of faith, we understand that doing things in community is always easier. And you can, you know, have a better potluck, you can sing more beautiful hymns if there's more different people participating together. So I definitely think the principle of doing the home solar in a group, in a community is an insight that we can really embrace and see its value for our folks. While I have the floor, I will mention that we have created a number of bulletin inserts to promote this home solar program in worship bulletins, and I'll put a link in the chat to those PDFs in case anyone wants to invite the congregants in your congregation to join this program.
That would be great. Thank you. And I saw 2 questions in the chat. I think Daisy's question, Cindy can get to, but Michelle wants to know if you can name the nonprofit advocate groups that you mentioned. Joelle, were there groups that you mentioned, nonprofit advocate groups?
I work for Interfaith Power and Light, which is, and I'll put that's our website. So that's the organization I work with, and we work with congregations, and one of the things we help them do is speak out for stronger climate policy, and speak out for, speak out, you know, do walk the talk in our communities, in our congregations, and in our homes, as well as joining the larger movements that are calling for structural change and stronger climate policy. So so I welcome anyone who's on the line who's curious. I'll also put a direct link to sign up for our emails.
Thank you. Amjad, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question, and I have a comment also. I'm from MDA Muslim community. I'm Amjad Chaudhry. So we have a solar panel, I think, for 5 years in our house, and it is saving money. It is very, very helpful. And also we have some solar panel in the mosque, the Beit Rahman mosque. And so I think they are also enjoying the benefit from the solar panels.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really neat to see that take place with houses of worship too. Cindy, did you have a comment?
I'm sure. I was just going to address Daisy's question on apartment buildings. I can speak to, if you were interested in having the owner of the apartment building install solar panels on the roof. We have financing available, and I help manage the projects to get bids and proposals and help understand them and help educate folks on how solar works. But that wouldn't benefit the people that rent the apartments. So if someone who owns an apartment building is interested, they can contact me and I'll put my information in the chat. But if you are interested in finding a way as a renter to help fight climate change and switch to renewable energy. We do have options for community solar. Joelle, I don't know if you want to speak to them.
Community solar or congregational solar?
Community solar for folks that rent an apartment.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so increasingly, there are options to subscribe to a community solar project where you direct a portion of your energy dollars to sort of off the top of your energy bill to support a larger solar array elsewhere in the county. And I can put a link in the chat to the one that we promote through Neighborhood Sun. There's also one that the Montgomery County Green Bank helped set up through Groundswell. So there's a couple different options in Montgomery County now for subscriptions. And one of the photos at the, I don't know if everyone logged on early enough to see the slideshow, but one of those pictures was of a Dot Shalom Reconstructionist congregation in Bethesda, where they had congregants sign up over a number of months to the Neighborhood Sun Community Solar Project as subscribers, and they celebrated that a lot. And then they all went on a field trip to visit, you know, the panels that they had helped finance through their subscriptions. So it can be a very meaningful thing to do as well if solar panels are not an option for your roof.
Thanks, Joelle. Yeah, and I can speak a little bit more to the community solar projects that we helped fund. There are a couple different subscriber organizations in the area, so you can take a look at the link Joelle's about to put in for Neighborhood Sun. We've also worked with Groundswell and Solar United Neighbors. And Solar United Neighbors happens to be the folks that are also doing the solar co-op that Lindsey was mentioning for homeowners, for residents of the county. And so lots of different options for community solar. I know that Neighborhood Sun is about to offer subscriptions for their Oaks landfill project, which is a huge, huge community solar installation that needs folks like us to sign up for, to purchase the electricity at a rate that's a little bit lower than we're paying now. But the unique thing about the Oaks landfill project is that you have to be low to moderate income to sign up. One of the projects we just actually just got turned on is down in Paddington Square Apartments in Silver Spring. So that's kind of an example of a way to get solar panels on your apartment building and also benefit on your Pepco, BGE, or Potomac Edison bill, because the folks there that live at Paddington Square can sign up. And the unique thing about that project is that folks that are low to moderate income, they get their subscription to the community solar power for free. We're very excited about that. And that's a third of all the subscriptions are free and for folks that qualify. That one is a special project to our hearts. And so we're happy to talk a little bit more about that. And I can put the link in the chat in a little bit.
Perfect. All right, so let's go to our next speaker. We have Tanaya McDuffie, who's here.
Oh,
and
I'm sorry, Kate.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Kate. Quick change. So Tanaya has some childcare going on, so I am going to.
Okay.
I'm going to take over that. Sorry.
Perfect. Well, that's fine. So sorry, Tanaya, to call you out. You probably had a heart attack. So Cindy McCabe is going to tell us more about Montgomery County Green Bank and also the Access Solar program that we've been hinting about throughout this program, but she's going to give you more details. Cindy is the solar program manager for the Montgomery County Green Bank. And she is just an expert on all things solar. So we're excited to have her here today and the ability for her to answer any of your questions. And again, feel free to put questions in the chat, wait until she's done speaking to ask questions, but take it from here, Cindy.
Kate, thank you so much. And sorry about that last minute switch. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. I want to speak tonight, especially about solar for individual homeowners, but I don't want to forget that there are a lot of folks on the call that belong to congregations and larger organizations. So if you're one of those folks that is sort of a community faith leader, we do have ways that you can help us promote this program and the other programs in community solar and the ones that Joelle was mentioning as well. So if you're able to, you can let Kate know, or I can put my email address in the chat as well. And if we're able to either send you digital information, the bulletins that Joelle was mentioning, or we can even come in person, you know, COVID permitting, to help spread the word on solar for your congregants, but also if you're interested in solar for your faith building, you can let me know as well. And we do have some financing and project management as well. So as I said, I'm going to switch over to sort of what we call residential solar, which is for homeowners in the county. So you may or may not have heard of the Green Bank. We have the word bank in our name, which is a little confusing. A green bank is a little bit different than a regular bank in that we're more of a fund for environmental projects. We are chartered by the county, but we're independent and we're a nonprofit. The purpose is to help fund energy efficiency and renewable energy projects that otherwise wouldn't happen if there wasn't financing available. You may say, well, why would we go to the Green Bank and not just a regular bank, the bank that you might already be familiar with? Well, since we are chartered by the county, we have funding that we're able to lend at a lower rate than what's available on the market. We also work with solar developers that are able to finance the project for you with no money down and all savings. So those are available as well. We work with lots of folks in the solar industry. Before working at the Green Bank, I worked in the solar industry in a couple different positions. And of course, we support the county's goal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And I just wanted to check in real quick. Did anybody catch what Lindsey or what Joelle mentioned? How is the electricity that we use if we don't have solar? How is that electricity generated? So you turn on the light switch, your light goes on. How's that generated if you don't have solar or another renewable energy? Who knows? You can come off mute. You could put it in the chat. I think Joelle mentioned it. Anybody want to guess? All guesses are okay.
Well, it's produced by coal-fired plants and gas-powered plants, lots of different, depending on where you live, hydroelectric, nuclear, lots of sources of energy production.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks. Yes, correct. So I speak Spanish and I speak to a lot of Spanish speakers, and in a lot of the Spanish-speaking countries in the Americas, they use hydroelectricity, which is a lot cleaner. But in this area, we use mostly a mix of burning fossil fuels and nuclear power. And so we're trying to move away from burning anything to using the sun, which comes up every day. We don't have to worry about running out of it. So thank you, Chris. This shows Montgomery County's climate goals. So you can see that the goal is to get to zero greenhouse gas emissions, which is what's produced if you burn fossil fuels or garbage, by 2035. And the pie chart I think is really interesting because it shows that about half of these polluting emissions come from buildings, our residential buildings and our commercial buildings. And so thinking about the way our buildings use electricity or hold the electricity in, hold in the heat and the cooling is really important. And you can see transportation's on there as well. I think Lindsey mentioned switching to an electric vehicle. We won't get into that today, but the county is running a co-op, a buying co-op for electric vehicles as well. So I don't know how many of the folks on the call know everything about solar or how many folks know nothing about solar. So I'm going to just really briefly go over how solar works. I can pretty much guarantee you that your house doesn't look exactly like this house, but what I like about this house is that it doesn't have solar panels in the middle. So I want you to notice that there's this part of the house that sticks out called a dormer that you can't put solar panels on. There probably also, every building also has vents and pipes, and some people have, what do you call them? The see-through, the light, I can't think of the word. But the windows that are at the top of the house where the sun shines through. I'm sorry. I've lost the word. But there are places on the house where you can't put solar panels. So keep that in mind. Lindsey has trees. You can't put solar panels where absolutely no sun shines in, right? You don't have to worry about this because if you do sign up for the co-op or you reach out to us, a solar installer will take a look at your house and let you know where you could put solar, how many solar panels you would need based on how much electricity you use. They figure all of that out for you. So the different parts of solar, you have the solar panels, of course, but a lot of people don't think about the rest of the equipment, which Lindsey showed in her picture. Those boxes on the side of her house are very important. So the electricity that's produced by the sun comes down this pipe called conduit, and it goes to an inverter. The inverter is like the brains of the solar system. It changes the electricity from DC current, which the sun creates with the solar panels, to AC current, which you use in your house. And it also records how much solar you're getting. That's how the county executive can show you on his phone, because the technology is getting the signal from that inverter box. And everybody gets that with solar nowadays too, it's included. The solar then goes to your electric panel, which powers whatever's running in your house. So your house will primarily pull from solar whenever the sun is out. Even if it's cloudy, you'll still get some generation. As long as you can tell, like right now it's cloudy, but you can tell it's still daylight if you're on the East Coast. There will still be some production even at this time. Not as much as when the sun is shining bright. The good thing is if you need a lot of electricity, but there's not a lot of sunlight, maybe it's wintertime, you're still connected to the utility grid, which is this pole here is represented by the utility grid. So if you need extra electricity, your house will automatically pull from the utility grid. You don't have to say solar system on, utility off. It does it automatically. And any extra electricity that you produce, which could happen in the spring a lot of times because it's nice out, you don't use a lot of heat or cooling. Extra electricity will go through your Pepco or BGE or Potomac Edison meter, and your meter will actually count backwards in number. So right now, probably most of you who don't have solar, your meter's counting up, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kilowatt hours. If you have extra solar, your meter could spin backwards in number, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which essentially erases the usage that you had when the sun wasn't up. The solar installer can tell you what to expect. Either your solar system can power a little bit of what you need, half of what you need, a lot of what you need. They look at your utility bills too to determine that. If anybody has any questions, Kate, you can just stop me, okay? Or I'll just keep going. Okay, some of the benefits of solar. So we already talked about emissions. That's what we call carbon footprint, switching over to a more environmental way to get electricity. Then there's savings. So a lot of people say, hey, I love the environment, but I don't have money. Well, usually, unless you say, I want you to put solar panels under this tree and I don't care if they don't produce any solar, there's always savings involved. Most solar installers won't put a solar system up unless there's savings involved. And a lot of times the savings could be the first month you turn the system on, depending upon how you finance it. Or if you wanted long-term financing to get all the incentives, there will be more savings over the long term. And the solar installer also will tell you about the different options you have for financing and what you think might be best for you, okay? And one answer, as Lindsey said, you could say, no, I don't want to do solar. And that's okay. There's no commitment if you sign up for the co-op. There's no fee to sign up for the co-op. So you can just try it, see if it works for your house, see if it works for your budget, see how much savings are involved. There's no money down, so that's great. Some people have enough money and they pay for the whole solar system up front. That's great for them. I think that's not the situation for most of us, right? Most of us need some kind of financing with no money down, and that's available. You may have heard of the tax credit Lindsey was talking about. If you don't know if you could take a tax credit, or maybe you know that you can't take a tax credit, that's okay. There are other options that we'll talk about in a minute where you don't need to take any tax credit. We have a third party to own the solar system for you. And you just pay for the electricity produced by the solar system at a lower rate than what you're paying now. Again, no money down. And in that option, all of the maintenance is covered as well. So you don't have to pay for if anything happens to your solar system. You don't pay for it, the developer does. With the solar co-op, you get preferred pricing because there's a lot of people signing up. So the installers offer a lower price. Also, the folks that run the solar co-op, Solar United Neighbors, they do all the homework on the installer that they choose. They make sure the installer provides the best equipment, the best warranty, and the best customer service, and that they're not going anywhere, right? Let's talk about if you live in an HOA, a homeowners association. Maryland is a great state, and we have a solar access law that protects a homeowner in an HOA from being denied the right to have solar on their house. The HOAs cannot also impose any limitations on where you could put the solar system if those limitations greatly reduce either the efficiency of the system or increase the cost. For example, if the part of your house that doesn't have shade is the only part you could put solar on, the HOA can't say you can't put solar on that part, because then you can't go solar, right? They also can't say you can't put any equipment on your house. You have to put some equipment somewhere, as we looked at it. They can ask you to put equipment on the back of the house. That's okay for them to do. And if you live in a historic district, first of all, you would already know. So if you're not sure, that means you don't live in a historic district, but historic districts can put special restrictions on solar. That's the only exception. So now we're at this program we've been hearing about, the Access Solar Program. So this is just for Montgomery County homeowners. And you have to have either a townhouse or a single family house and have total household income, regardless of how many people live in your house, of $97,500 or less per year. What do we require as proof? Actually, nothing. We just ask you to verify, self-verify your income, and we don't ask you to prove it. So we have checked into some research that says that the majority of people, they don't lie about their income. They don't lie just to get income programs. So we trust you. So if you think you might qualify and you know your income is equal to or less than this figure, you can go ahead and check the box when you sign up for the co-op and you qualify for these special financing offers. So $0 down, always important to emphasize that, very important. We talked a little bit about the tax credit availability and other incentives. If you are going to get the incentives for your solar system, that means you want to own your solar system. You want to be the owner, because the owner of the solar system gets those incentives that are available. If you are not sure about your incentive qualifications, you don't know if you have enough tax credit or tax liability, one, you can ask your accountant, and two, you can rent your solar system, which means the solar panels are still on your house, but they're owned by a developer that we know and we've done our homework on, and they pay for the solar system. They pay for all the warranty and maintenance for 20 or 25 years, and you just get a lower rate for your solar electricity. That's the only thing you pay. Okay, so let's look at a couple quick options. So we talked a little bit about ownership with cash for folks that have enough cash to pay for their solar system. That's great for them. I know I can't. A lot of you might not be able to. You pay for the solar system up front, and you get the incentives if you qualify for those incentives. Then if you want to own your solar system and get the incentives, but you don't have all that cash up front, you can finance it. And we do have loans available, 12, 15, and 20-year loans. And that's usually for folks that think that they might be able to get the incentives, that tax credit as well. You also pay a predictable monthly payment, which we can run for you. There's a calculator on our website where you can see how much your monthly payment might be. So you can compare it to what you're paying now for electricity and make sure it makes sense for you. The installers will do that for you too. They'll say, oh, you're interested in the loan? Here's how much it will be. Here's how much you'll save every month. And then on the right is our rental agreement. As I said, no upfront cost. You don't own the solar system. You sign an agreement to buy the electricity at a set rate, and you pay a little bit less for your electricity than you used to. So there's really no downside to the rental, I don't think. Just get a lower electricity for the solar than what your utility was charging you. So there's another incentive that I want to mention real quick. Hopefully you guys haven't all already fallen asleep listening to me talk about finance stuff, but I'll try to be quick here and talk to you about solar renewable energy credits, or SRECs. My job is to empower everyone with knowledge so that when you go into any kind of solar talk, you know what you're talking about. Solar renewable energy credits you earn as your solar system produces electricity. So it's not a tax credit that you file on your taxes. It's a certificate that you get as your system produces electricity. So you don't get it right away, but you earn it as you produce. So they're sort of like stocks in a way, because they're virtual. One, nothing comes in the mail, and you have to sell them on sort of like a stock market, but it's for SRECs. You can either choose to do this yourself and sell your SRECs on the market, try to get the highest amount you can for them, or you can sign them over up front and get that money taken off the total of your solar system cost. We offer that. It's called an SREC subsidy, and that's part of the Access Solar program. Usually it reduces the total cost by about 10%. So it's a good chunk we take off of the top of the total cost that you don't have to pay, and then we sell your SRECs for you. And actually after 5 years, we give them back to you. So it's just for 5 years of your SRECs. After that, for the rest of the life of the solar system, they're yours. So let's talk about dollars, because all this stuff that I say probably sounds fine, but what does it actually mean in dollars? So we have a sample solar system here, and I want to make sure that you don't expect that a solar system on your house or your friend's house is going to be this size or cost this much. They all vary. It's not going to be exact. This is just an example. So we have the total cost of the system, $25,000. Let's say you say, that's great, Cindy, I have $25,000. Perfect. You don't need our help, right? Then if you qualify, you can get the federal tax credit when you do your taxes. You can decide to take the SREC subsidy or not take it and sell them yourself. You can, then this would be the leftover amount that you could pay for or finance. How does the SREC subsidy save you money? So if you didn't take the SREC subsidy, you'd be paying an extra, you would save $217 for your first year. Whereas if you, let me move them, my little gallery of people. Whereas if you did take the subsidy, you'd save $454 in your first year. So that just shows you the benefit of using the upfront subsidy. My favorite part, because I'm an environmentalist, is the bottom here. How many metric tons of greenhouse gas are saved, the equivalent in coal not burned or smartphones charged. You can see the website where I got that from. So that was with our ownership option, getting the incentives, saving the money, owning your solar system, paying for it or financing it. Let's talk how you save money with the rental agreement. The rental agreement is also known as a power purchase agreement because you're paying for the power only. You're not paying for the solar system. This is another example. We actually took a worst case example, so we didn't make things look amazing and flowery and the best ever. Same for the previous option. We took a worst case scenario, and you can see there's still savings. So if you don't go solar, your utility rate could be the green and the dark green and the light green bars together. Okay, so the complete set of bars is the utility rate with an escalation. It could be less, it could be more. We use the US Energy Information Administration's forecasts for this. And then the power purchase agreement rate is just the dark green. So if you went solar, your rate, instead of being the full bar, would just be the dark green part. So you can see by year 25, you're chopping off this light green section, and you're just paying the dark green part. So all of this light green here, you're avoiding by lowering the cost of electricity with the power purchase agreement. This is even with a 1% escalator on your solar rate. You can get a solar rate that stays the same. That's what I would do. But some people want to save more money up front, so they get a lower rate with an escalator. Again, you don't have to remember anything I say, because the solar installer will explain everything again. So let's say you said, this sounds okay, Cindy. Well, how do we do it? So the first step is to sign up for the solar co-op, and I'll put the link in the chat. The next thing that happens is that a solar installer will contact you and go over a proposal. Make sure you ask them about Access Solar financing, because it's a new program and they might forget. We did train everybody on it, but you never know. Every system is different. The pricing is a little bit different from home to home. So you do have to go over a proposal with an installer, and then you go ahead and get them installed, and you start helping the earth and saving money. So what are some of the benefits of joining a co-op? I think we already went over them, but the pricing's already negotiated. They also do all their homework on the installers to make sure that they're giving the best equipment, warranty, monitoring like the county executive has, and great quality both in labor and service. How to sign up, there's the link right here. It'll be in the chat in just a minute. Just to make sure we say it one more time, there's no cost to sign up for the solar co-op. It's just sort of to see if solar is right for you. And don't forget, if you think you qualify based on income, to check that box. Thank you all so much. I just want to make sure to mention, in case anybody came on late, we've been talking about solar for homeowners, but we also have financing for if the building itself, where you have your faith organization, would like to go solar. You can contact me for commercial solar financing, we call it. And if your community would like to help spread the word about solar, Joelle and I can come out and speak to everyone, or we can send you some digital information as well. So even if you don't know if this is right for you, but you want your congregation to know about it and make the choice for themselves, you can let us know. Thank you so much.
So Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy. Oh, go ahead, Amjad.
Cindy, I was just thinking of, you said that best equipment, solar system have different grades of equipment or something.
They do, yes. They have tiers, they call them. So the best tier is tier 1 equipment. And that's what the co-op requires the installers to use, tier 1.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Here's my email, and I'm going to grab the link for the co-op and put it in as well.
While she's doing that, there is a question that I can answer. We have recorded this presentation, so we're going to send it all to you after this. But Cindy, are you going to have the slides available to share as well?
Certainly, yep. Yes, I can send them out.
Okay, so I'll send a follow-up email with that information. And then I'm going back to see if there are questions that were not answered. I'm not sure if Joelle's was able to answer those questions in the chat. Anna, I see your hand up.
Yeah, so I had a question in there about the PPAs. Have you ever run into examples where somebody's is under a rental agreement, and let's say they sell their home? Is there usually a minimum rental period, or does it matter at all whether, you keep your rental agreement for 1 year or 2 years or 25 years?
Thank you, Anna. That's a great question. Very popular question as well. And so in a power purchase agreement in the contract, there are options for buying out your contract after 5 years, or if you move before 5 years. So if you move in 6 months into your power purchase agreement, there are transfer options. You can transfer to the new homeowner. And you can also terminate your contract by paying a fee, which should be listed in your contract after 5 years or any year after that. There should be a list of termination values in your contract that will show you how much it will cost to get out of the contract, basically pay back the developer for the cost of the remaining cost of the solar system any year after year 5. And it's year 5 because of the value of the incentives in the first 5 years.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions? I see Amjad unmuted himself. Amjad, do you have a question?
Actually, I was thinking we have solar panels on one side, and there's very big fans I've seen in Pennsylvania. So those big fans are not that produce the electricity. So have you thought of those big fans? I don't know what the name for these fans are. Those are the ones that produce the electricity.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
I think I meant the wind
Wind
turbine, like windmills?
Yeah, windmills. Yeah. So have the Montgomery County or any other county in Maryland, they have thought of these wind fans to produce the electricity?
I personally, I've thought of it. I'll let Lindsey answer, but we are happy to work on financing any type of renewable energy. So we're not opposed to that, but as far as whether or not we've thought of it, I'll hand it over to Lindsey.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, I had to step away for a little bit, bedtime with kids. So Maryland actually does not have great wind resources, especially in Montgomery County. If you look at the Department of Energy's, the US Department of Energy's wind maps, you'll see that Montgomery County especially, but most of Maryland, except for extreme Western Maryland, is actually very poor in terms of wind resources. Of course, it's not going to happen on the coast now that that's a viable area to develop for wind. But Pennsylvania is a heck of a lot better because they have the Appalachian Mountains going right there. So they have a much better wind resource than we do here in Maryland, unfortunately. There are some, they call them demonstration projects of wind power. You can see some of them on Montgomery College's Germantown campus. The Biohealth Center has wind turbines on top of the building. Those are pretty cool. We've heard that there's about 6 megawatts somewhere in Montgomery County installed, some wind power. We don't know where it is because we're just not great for wind resources, frankly. We think that there's some at the NIST campus in Gaithersburg, but that's.
Thank you.
Lindsey, when you say we're not great for wind resources, in other words, do you mean it's not windy enough?
That's absolutely right. We don't have and of course, like we get a huge storm, there's wind, but it's not consistent, right? So we don't have consistently windy weather enough to generate consistent energy. I'll pull up those wind maps because they're actually fascinating. I'm going to go find them right now on Google for you and put them in the chat.
All right, while she is doing that, do we have any other final questions or comments for our panelists?
I just wanted to ask, are there any opportunities to have covered platforms built over the parking lots of religious institutions, or where, I don't know whether that was covered here or not?
That's a great question, and I can take that. Yes, you definitely can build a carport, we call it, over a large parking lot. However, the financing for it is not as simple, no money down type of financing, because building a structure, which usually requires a lot of steel, is expensive. So there isn't a rental agreement for it, and most faith communities don't have taxable, well, no faith communities have taxable income. And so you would be missing out on the federal tax credit if you financed a project like that with a loan. Basically, the cheapest way to go solar is to put solar panels on an existing structure.
Okay.
So if you have a roof or possibly a ground mount with enough open space, you don't mind having a fence around it, there could be ways to do the rental agreement where you don't have to have the taxable income because the developer comes in and gets it. So it is possible if you have the cash reserves, in short.
Okay. Right.
All right, any final questions, concerns before we start closing things up?
I had a question for everyone. Would anyone who is a faith leader and interested in being open to having either a meeting like this or in person or sharing digital information, could you put your information in the chat and I can reach out to you and we can sort of talk about what's the best method for getting information out to your community, your congregants? I'd appreciate it.
And this video will be a good resource too that you can share with people. And I would encourage you to learn more and connect and make sure that your constituents and congregation is well connected and knows that this resource is available.
And thank you. You can come to the Bethlehem Mosque and talk about the solar panel and these things. Okay.
And we have two faith leaders who are able to provide us with closing prayers tonight, actually. So I'm going to first ask Dr. Singh if he's able to offer a short prayer, and then we're going to ask Amjad Chaudhry to offer our closing prayer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And this was just an amazing, eye-opening session, whatever time I attended, but I will definitely look forward to watching the video and bother you all with my questions. I'll do a very short prayer. In the founder of the Sikh faith, Guru Nanak, basically invokes all the gifts that we receive from our Creator. And I'll sing that and I'll translate that. Pavan Guru Pani Pita Mata Tarit Mahat Divas Raat Doe Dai Daya Khile Sagal Jagat Mata Tarit Mahat. Oh God, this earth is our mother. The air is our teacher, gives us the opportunity to breathe life. And the water is a father through which this whole life came into being. This became possible only with your order, with your own blessings. Give us the wisdom so we should care for this wonderful gift that we have received from you in terms of nature and Mother Earth. Give us this wisdom to care for our future generations and not remain selfish and destroy this wonderful blessing that we have all received. May all faiths can come together and care for Mother Earth. Thank you.
So Chaudhry, I think I was thinking of, in the event of vandalism, fire, arson, the Montgomery County churches, and the Ukraine war in inflicting many innocent individuals. Only God will help us and show us the way to peace. I have chosen some prayer from early Christianity preserved in the Holy Quran, chapter 18 and verse 11. And it is the time of Christian catacombs. The prayer is in Arabic. Auzubillah minash shaitanir rajim. Isabel fitiyatu ilal kafe فقالوا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. And its translation is, when the young men betook themselves for refuge in the cave and said, O our Lord, bestow on us mercy from thyself and provide us right guidance in our affairs. May God listen to our prayer and provide the right guidance to us also. Thank you very much.
Thank you to both. Those were both very beautiful prayers. And thank you so much to our panelists. Most of all, Cindy, for organizing all of this and being patient with me as I helped her organize. I really appreciative to all of you for being here and for learning more about solar energy and the different accessibility options within Montgomery County. I hope that this was helpful to you all. And we do try to have 2 town halls a month. Things are a little bit complicated this summer because the next town hall would be scheduled for election day. So we won't be doing that, which is a great reminder to tell everybody to go out and vote. Early voting has already started, but we are a week away from our voting deadline. So absolutely get out there and vote. And, you know, vote based off of your energy heart, you know, but there are some really wonderful candidates. And so make sure to get out there and voice your opinion. But thank you all so much. And I don't know if any of our panelists have any closing thoughts or things that they would like to share with you all, but would like to give you all that option.
The one thing is that we have many open panels and discussions and events going on. So you are all welcome to come to the Beth Rahman Mosque. This Sunday also we have an event coming up. So many of the events are coming up here and there. So please contact me, and if you want to visit the mosque and spend some time with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kate, for having these town halls. It was a pleasure being on here.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.